Hello and welcome back to Larp School. Today we're going to be talking about sleeping. Yes, as I said, today's episode is about sleeping, and as silly and as trivial as it might seem, it's actually a pain in the backside if you get it very wrong. There are some extreme horror stories of sleeping. There are three sort of main aspects I want to cover with this. It's, first of all, your tent, then what you're sleeping on and with, and then location. First of all, your tent. It's going to sound really simple and trivial, and it really is. It's got to be waterproof. Now, there are a lot of events that have ended in a washout or a mud bath. It does sometimes, Larp does turn into Glastonbury a little bit with all the mud and everything like that. And a lot of people do get sort of, washed out of their tents. And this is part of their tent, and also the third one, which is their location. So I'll go straight to location. I'll do the other bit last. When you're camping, you want to make sure you don't camp yourself in a ditch. As comfy and as smooth as they may be, unfortunately that is also where a lot of water will gather. And if you do camp in a ditch and it does rain, you are going to have a very unpleasant and very wet night. Now, location is also important because, if you're camping icy or OC, you got to remember, people will be up, people will be drinking, there will be fires, there will be sing-songs, there will be a lot of noise, a lot of conversation, a lot of ruckus going on into the early hours of the morning. We're LARPers, we like to have fun, we like to stay up late, we like to have a drink with our friends, we like to talk, catch up and just generally talk about how the day went, and also how, the game's going in general as well. So if you're not a fan of noise and you're not a fan of loud things and you do like to enjoy your sleep, do camp a little bit further away from sort of the main hub areas where, there may be a fire or where there's room for a fire. Just sort of camp a little bit out the way from there and you'll avoid the noise. You'll still hear it, don't get me wrong. I mean, sometimes they can be very loud. You can hear them for like half a mile that direction. I've heard people from half a mile. It's ridiculous. But be aware that people do enjoy drinking, and when people drink they do get loud, and when they get loud it means everybody else gets louder to try and talk over the top of everyone else until somebody does kind of go, hey guys, shh, people are trying to sleep, let's keep the conversations quiet, let's keep it friendly, let's keep it social, but let's think of our friends who are trying to sleep. Also, location wise, as I've said, you don't want to camp in a ditch because you'll get wet, and that also sort of goes along the same sort of ways as camping on a hill. Now, sometimes hills are unavoidable. You will be camped on a hill, which can be a pain in the backside. I would recommend, if you are camped on a hill, the smart thing to do is have your head sort of up and have your body sort of at an angle going down, so your feet are here, your head's there. Because the last thing you want is to be sleeping the other way with your head here, your legs there, all the blood rushing to your head, sort of waking up being really dizzy and not quite with it. And more importantly as well, now we're getting on to what you're sleeping on, what you're sleeping with. I would always recommend getting yourself slightly raised from the ground. This is just in case water does somehow seep into the tent. At least you've got, even if you do have one of those tiny little camping beds that sort of raises up only by like an inch, that's still an inch of clearance between you and the water that's streaming through your tent. It does mean you won't be getting wet immediately. If the water continues to rise, you may start getting wet, or if your sleeping bag sort of is overflowing onto the water, it will absorb it up. And sleeping bags are so important. I would always recommend a mummy sleeping bag, the ones with the hoods that go all around the face, especially when camping between sort of October and March, because it can get very cold during the nights. Even though temperatures, it may say, oh yeah, it's going to be about 12 degrees or 10 degrees, that sort of thing, which you'll think, oh yeah, no, that's fine, I won't get cold from that. You got to remember, most LARPs take place in large open pieces of land. There may be sort of trees around and stuff which will cover a little bit, but the temperature is going to drop because there's not going to be any of the buildings that keeping heat in that will be radiating it out throughout the night to keep it warm. You will be down just to nature, and the ground will absorb all that heat that's left, and you will get cold face, cold nose. It's the worst feeling when you wake up and your nose is frozen solid and running, and it's like, oh. So then you're sort of sleeping like that, and you've got, just horribleness everywhere. So I'd always recommend a mummy sleeping bag, and also an all-weather sleeping bag, which are waterproof. This is also to follow on to the fact of, even though if you do have that ground clearance there, if your sleeping bag's not waterproof, and it is touching the water, it will just start to absorb that water through to the fabric part of the sleeping bag, which means that eventually that's then going to start getting onto your skin or your clothes if you sleep clothed, and it's just not generally going to be good. Temperatures wise, I would always recommend sleeping in as little as possible. This is for the pure and simple fact of your body's a very good conductor of heat. It will give off heat throughout the night to warm up the sleeping bag. If you can sleep clothed, but you're going to feel colder in the morning, especially when you get up and out. If you want to avoid that, what you can do is on the sleeping bag, if you then layer your clothes underneath yourself as well and sleep on top of your clothes, or have your clothes in the sleeping bag with you. So in the morning, they're still nice and toasty, but you're not immediately going to sort of have all your body heat on you at once. You can get the clothes back on, which are going to layer you, and then you can step outside and your body's not going to react as quickly or as shockingly as it would if you were just sleeping fully clothed. And I would always recommend, this is all my personal opinion, as with all these videos. Please put your opinions down below. But I would always suggest getting at least 5 hours sleep, which is nowhere near as much as normal. But you don't go to a LARP event expecting to sleep as long as normal. Some people do, and some people do need a normal night's sleep, which is fair enough. But I would always recommend getting at least 5 hours sleep. So if you've got time in, say at 10 a.m, I would always recommend getting to sleep before 3. Before 3, then waking up at 8, which gives you 2 hours to get yourself breakfast, get yourself clothed, showered, and generally cleaned and ready and nice for the next day. Rather than sort of leaving it, you see the sun starting to come up at about 4:30, and it's like, I should get some sleep, and then sort of waking up at 9:30, rolling out of bed, just chucking clothes on, sort of as timing goes. Because especially if you've got your gear icy, you will die. Your character will die. And there was an example of this at the last event that I was monstering. Last GC event, sorry, I was monstering. We were doing a rear camp attack whilst more troops were taking them from the front, and somebody was still getting ready. And this was about half hour, 45 minutes into time in. They were still getting ready. They didn't have any weapons. They were downed. No one found them. They died. It was shit and a crap way to go, but it was a good thing as well, because through that I hope it meant people learnt that if you're time in, you are time in. It doesn't matter how far into the game you are. It can be 5 minutes in, it can be half an hour in. You've got to be ready at time in. If you're not ready, you are really playing the game and you run a high risk of dying. But yeah, anyway, that's sleeping. sleep is good. Sleep is what we need. There are just a few tips for getting a good night's sleep and trying to sort of just cut out the main problems people have, which is getting wet, getting cold, and generally sort of waking up in the morning feeling grouchy. But anyway, thank you very much for watching this episode. And until the next time, guys, take care and goodbye for now.